Hello, good afternoon, guys. Welcome to episode 15 of ServiceNow podcast series on the Easter week. Happy Easter to those who celebrate. Today I'm joined with ServiceNow expert from XenTegra, Kristen McDonald. Kristen, how is it going?
Great. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. How was your long weekend?
Oh, it was fantastic. Thank you.
Great. So talking about ServiceNow, one of the things that definitely something that we as in XenTegra, we are really passionate about because we understand the potential of the product, something that we use internally in-house. We are one of the partner who has not only from the reselling side as our CEO, Andy Whiteside, who runs these series. He talks about value-added reseller 2.0. So at one point, value-added was the part that resellers they did, but then it slowly lost its touch and it became more of a reselling than value-added. So that's something that we are bringing back to the table by just making it more of value-added reselling. And we feel that ServiceNow is one thing that adds whole lot of value to the whole automation, solution designing, solution support, customer experience, and many more things. So I know there are many things to talk about. What topic do you have in mind today that we are going to talk?
Oh, today we've got a new article on total experience. So you might have heard of customer experience. There's been a lot of focus recently on employee experience. Of course, we've all heard of user experience, but total experience really takes all of those and puts it together in one experience for all of your users, regardless of where they're coming from, regardless of how they're getting to you, how they're connecting with you, whether it's internal, external. Really focusing on a unified experience for everybody that interacts with your brand. Yeah.
And especially when we talk about delivery experience or when we talk about customer, so in reality, this is a service industry. And especially when we talk about software as a service, it is a service. And there are many things, and I don't think so you can separate these user experience and customer experience and employee experience into different silos. So given that ServiceNow being a SaaS product and they focus heavily on employee experience, customer experience, those things, what do you think when we talk about total experience, where would you put the weight on? And again, I'm learning as we go with this thing because there are many things that we can do, and especially when it comes to the product, I feel that customer experience and then what you call total experience is the key. So where does the weight goes more on when we talk about total experience?
I think the weight is really distributed when we're talking about total experience, because you can't just focus on one aspect and expect to really have that comprehensive experience for your brand. And that's why ServiceNow is so uniquely positioned to really be a leader in this area, because you've got a single platform. You're breaking down silos between the different departments and groups in your organization. You've got a single platform where your customers are coming in. You've got omni-channel experiences there. So whether they're coming in through virtual agent or the mobile application or the portals, your customers are still coming into ServiceNow and interacting with your agents who are also on ServiceNow. So just having that unified platform really makes the whole TX strategy much simpler, because you're dealing with that single technology source, right?
So for me, Kristen, and for audience who are not as well versed, when you say TX, what does that mean? I have heard about this word TX, but I'm not sure if I totally understand what does it mean.
Oh, sure. So everybody has heard of user experience, right? That's UX, UI design. That's pretty standard in our industry. A lot of people have been talking about employee experiences lately, because employees are getting to the point where As consumers, we're so used to modern apps and modern interfaces that we expect the same thing at work, right? For customers, the customer experience is really how are your customers interacting? What are the touch points between your customers and your organization? Total experience is saying, okay, what is my brand? What does my brand represent? And how do I represent that across all of the different experiences and not have a completely different experience for my customer versus my employee, right? So if I'm going to streamline, if I'm going to modernize, I can't just do that for my customer. I have to do that for my customer and for my employees, right? So that the experience is very streamlined and uniform across the different interfaces. Does that make sense?
That does make sense. Now, in all these things, how does feedback and survey play a role? Is there something that goes hand in hand?
I think the feedback and survey is really important because with any enhancements that you're making to your platforms or processes or anything of that nature, you have to have that feedback loop, right? And surveys give you that opening with whoever you're interfacing with, whether that is your customer or your employee with a certain process or both of them in a given process, to get that feedback loop closed and really get that back in, find out exactly, is your customer experience matching up with your employee experience? Do you have a disconnect there on one side or the other? And then you can take action based on what you're getting. Yep.
That makes a whole lot of sense. Now, in terms of a strategic approach required, is this something, shed more light on this? What is the approach that is required?
I would say that you definitely need a cross-functional team when you're looking at your total experience. You need people who are not only representing your employees, but the different departments and different processes that your employees are dealing with. You also need people who are customer facing on that group. And if you can get a focus group of customers, that's super helpful as well, because you really need to look across these processes and across the interactions between your customers and your employees to get that total experience. So making sure you have the right people in the room is definitely key. Yep.
And is this something that you do it in one go, or do you just break it down into different silos and then address one segment at a time?
You can definitely break it down into different phases as long as your roadmap is comprehensive, right? So how do you eat an elephant one bite at a time, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yep, same principle here. Yeah.
And that is always we have seen with from many customers and many deployments that we have done that there is a project, even if you just manage project, because of how big the whole solutioning is, the workflow is, the different potentials. Talk about onboarding, offboarding, HR, project management, ITSM, ITOM. It's like an endless thing. Now, when you talk about employee experience, total experience, user experience, now trying to bring them together. We were in last week. We were in Tennessee, in Nashville, attending an end user compute conference, and we presented how Agile and ServiceNow, they integrate and how they work together to make the experience seamless. Now, if I think about this total experience, that definitely feels like it's a key component to whichever module you take or whichever track you take. There are many things to go with it that you just keep going on and on.
Absolutely. It's like any corporate strategy, right? You have to define what you're looking to gain out of it. What is your brand? What does your brand represent? What kind of experience do you want to present to your users? And then once you have those, guiding lights, then you can start looking at, okay, what are the individual projects we need to do in order to make that happen and in order to fulfill those goals and that vision within this particular space, right? Yeah.
Got it. Now, just for laymen like me, if you have to start from somewhere, where do you start? So if let's just take example of a customer service organization trying to embark on ServiceNow, and where does this total experience comes in? Is this something that you start before you start dividing the projects, or walk me through the scenario on how will you fit this module into the whole experience?
Yeah, absolutely. I would definitely start with the total experience if that's something you're looking to implement within your organization, because the guidelines that you're establishing as part of that exercise will inform the individual projects and the individual implementations that you're doing, right? So if your goal is modern, omni-channel, connected, then those three principles are going to guide the individual projects, whether it's your IT implementation or your customer service implementation or your HR onboarding process, right? So just defining very clearly, what are your organization's goals? What are your objectives? What does your brand stand for, right? And then letting that inform those projects is really the tactic I would recommend. Yep.
Got it. Is this is there a technical or a solution angle in this as well, that we have to do certain workflow or task before we can start looking into CX, EX, those things?
No, actually, there's not really a technical prerequisite for it. We can, as always, track the work that's being done in ServiceNow. That's the great thing about ServiceNow. You can track pretty much anything in it. However, there's no technical prerequisite for this. This is really about your organization's goals and strategies and getting those clearly defined, so then we can build out the roadmap to actually implement it. Yep.
Okay. And different benefit. I know we talked about some of the benefit, but if you have to summarize one of the biggest benefit of the total experience, what will that be?
I would say user satisfaction across your user base. Again, whether that's internal, external, customer versus employee. Both customer and employee experience can really go up when you're looking at those interfaces and those crossovers, because you're making it more efficient for them to speak to each other. You're making it more efficient for your employees to interact with your customers. You're giving your customers just a more pleasant experience because there's fewer roadblocks in those communications. So I would say user satisfaction would be the primary benefit. Yep.
And have you seen any resistance coming in when you talk about total experience from any stakeholder?
I haven't as of yet, but it's a fairly new concept, I would say, that's out in the world. I myself came across it about a year ago. So, yeah, I haven't seen much resistance, but as always with any new topic or any new initiatives, you're going to see that as you go. Yep.
So you said this is a new initiative. What was ServiceNow doing before they rolled in this total experience?
Well, I think the silos pretty much, right? Because you see, even within ServiceNow, they're organized into programs. So you've got your ITSM group, you've got your CSM group, you've got your HR group, right? And they do have their own programs, their own teams. They are fairly siloed. But a couple years ago, I was a member of one of their workshops. They did workshops with managed services customers. And that's when they really started bringing in the different teams to speak to this particular customer base. And they were really trying to go out of those silos to cater to the specific set of customers, right? And it was interesting to see these teams speaking to each other, because you could tell that they don't often kind of cross over unless there's some specific integration that they're building or some specific product. But I could definitely see how this could have grown out of that type of initiative as they started really focusing on their customers and what their customers needed from them. Again, it's a unified platform. So even though they may be in silos, we're not in silos, right? as their user base. So, yeah.
Sounds excellent. And so you talked about managed services, and now this is something I know you're spearheading our managed services initiative as well. Where do you think, where and when, these are two important questions, do you think that you plan to introduce this in our MSP offering that we are going to roll out very soon?
Yeah, that's a great question. Our focus has obviously been on getting MVP up and running so that we have an actual product to offer our customers, because I know a lot of the small to mid-sized businesses, they're clamoring for this, right? They can't cover the baseline cost of ServiceNow, so they really need a solution for that. So we are expecting to roll that out this week, and so that's an exciting new product launch. And so, yeah, I think the next step is improving upon that, right? So now that we've got our base product out there, we can really start looking at the experience across our user base. Yeah.
That's great. You said this week. Now I just cannot stop smiling, because that's something that is one thing that is very close to our heart when we talk about coming from the infrastructure background. Few of us where we focus more on customer success, where we feel that customer success is key to any technology that we roll in. And we have always exceeded our customers' experience when we introduce this customer success. So now talking about experience and talking about giving what your not only internal employees, that we are giving it to them, but then talking about our customers on how we give them the same experience. I believe that is something that is really phenomenal too. I cannot wait to see when it gets added to our service toolkit.
Yeah, absolutely.
So with that, I know that's one thing that that we have always talked about when we roll out our MSP. We want to have these customer experience and customer service in place. Do you have any thought and ideas on how other people do? Is this something that that is being offered from other suppliers and vendors? Would you know how others are doing it?
So ServiceNow does have their own solution for customer success, and we've been kind of taking a look at that and seeing, where can XenTegra offer additional support and services to our customers to really ensure customer success. That is an ongoing internal discussion. So something that we really want to provide to our customers. We want to make sure we're not stepping on ServiceNow's toes, but at the same time, there's always room to improve service to customers. So, yeah. Great.
Kristin, thanks. I think this was really insightful for me, not knowing much about this. Now, is there a revenue angle to this? Is there a revenue impact, either generating more revenue or this? What is the revenue angle to this?
Yeah, it can be difficult to quantify, but anytime you're improving your customer experience, there's definitely a revenue angle to it. So I would say that definitely comes into play. And then just in general profits for the company and bottom line for the company in terms of employee retention, that also comes into play, right? Because you're covering both aspects there, both the internal and external. So, yep.
That's a good point. Employee retention. I did not think from that angle that yes, this may lead to your employee retention as well. Mm-hmm. And you said that definitely makes sense when you start talking about CX and EX and building upon the TX, the business approach. That definitely brings when it starts to bring a synergy between different departments. that is one of the biggest challenge for any organization on trying to make different department and team talk to each other. So I can see that how it impacts and taking it to the next level when you are starting to make different department talk to each other.
Yeah, absolutely. And we both know that is one of ServiceNow's strongest points, is being that unified platform and breaking down those silos. Yep.
Yeah, and very good point. And we would literally last week when we were in this end user computing conference, this is one thing where every OEM, so we were with LG, Lenovo, Citrix, Control, VMware, Microsoft. There were many vendors, and then all of them, they talk different language because these are different technology. But the minute you talk about ServiceNow, it's like one language that everyone understands, and how they all come together. And this is where we felt the power and strength of ServiceNow, where when we spoke to Citrix, when we spoke to IGEL, that's the conference that we were in, IGEL Disrupt. Citrix, we talk all day long. We talk to IGEL, we talk all day long. But when we started talking to them about ServiceNow, that was an eye-opening moment for not only OEMs or vendors, but also for our end customer. When we had few customers that when we started talking to them, they said one of the customer with 20,000 users, what they are doing is on Citrix, they have Citrix sessions that come in. They have to log into Citrix control plane to look at the user who are coming in, the issues that they are seeing. They are doing all the management over there. When you're so that is something more reactive, where someone, when you go in, you see that person is having issues or problem, or this person gets out of Citrix or technology that they are using, and they have to go to ServiceNow on open ticket. So what this company did was they pulled up every session that they had in Citrix and they moved it into ServiceNow. So now they have one console where they can go and monitor user experience, and then they can go and address. And they said that they dropped their service ticket to 70%. And we were blown away by just looking at the numbers and that small initiative, what they did to change the user experience.
Right. And I'm so glad you brought that up, because so many people talk about user experience and you think UI, user interface, right? You think portal, app, the way things look and feel, but it goes so far beyond that, right? Are you being proactive? When's the last time your power company called to tell you, hey, we're working on your outage? We see it before you ever call them and pick up the phone, right? I did actually have a power company do that when I was back in Tennessee, and it was the best thing ever, because I didn't even have to call them and go look for their number with the power out, my internet out, and just being proactive can really improve the experience of everybody who's using your platform by so much. And even going beyond the proactivity, also meeting your users where they're at, right? So are you communicating with your customers the way they want to be communicated with? Or are you opening up avenues for your employees to work the way they want to? We're all remote these days. So can your employees log in seamlessly to your platform and do their work, from home if they need a work from home day? Or can they work from their mobile phone if they're out in the field and trying to support a customer? Can your customer access you by a mobile app? Or, we've got Chat GPT coming out, which is all the rage and it's taken over everybody's interest. And do you have a virtual agent where your customers can interface with that? So experience really goes so far beyond just the look and feel of things. So I'm so glad you brought that up. Yep.
Great. So just to wrap it up, if you have to summarize total experience, what will be short 1 or 2 line message that you would want to give us and leave behind with our listeners?
I would just say it's worth the exercise, right? It takes a little bit of time to define that, but really taking the time to think through what that total experience should look like for all of your user base, regardless of where they're coming from, it is so worth the time, because then as you're building out your platforms and your products and your processes, everything is just in alignment and on brand and on point. So it's definitely worth the investment. Yeah.
Spot on. Thanks, guys. Thanks, Kristin, for listening. Thanks, people, for listening to us. Next podcast series, hopefully your favorite moderator, Andy Whiteside, will be there. He was out of office. I was covering. My name is Moin Khan, and I'm a Chief Technology Officer for XenTegra. I was covering for Andy. Really insightful. Thanks, Kristin, for bringing me up to speed. This is something that we are really passionate about, and I feel it is an important topic for our customers and for our employees, and whoever is in customer service business, they should know. And this was really learning experience. Thank you so much.
Thank you.